Welcome to the Gaggle, where we talk politics in Arizona and beyond. This week, the legislature got underway with the specter of sexual harassment hanging over it, and Joe Arpaio got his name in the headlines again. But we begin with the governor's State of the State address. How did it go?
It went well. I think from his vantage point, the early criticism was that there were, of course, were not enough details for people to comment before he releases his budget, you know, in an informed way. He opened on the topic that was on the top of everyone's mind, which are the allegations of sexual harassment and sexism hanging over the state capitol and other institutions across the country. He essentially said that there's no place for it, you know, at the state capitol or in his administration, and he vaguely talked about some of the other priorities that he would like to see tackled over the next year or so, but was very vague. I mean, he tackled things that people couldn't argue with: wrong-way drivers, opioid abuse, bringing your babies to work, making sure that people who go and get blowouts, moderate Republican and Democrat women whom he might rely on down the road when launches his campaign bid, don't have to have hours upon hours of training to blow out people's hair. Like they seem to be kind of more small bally type issues, with the exception of education funding, and that was something that I think we'll see more of in the coming days.
We'll talk a bit about that. What is he proposing there with education? He
wants to restore recession-era funding, so per pupil funding. That there were great cuts that were made to those figures. This is an issue that he has been hammered on for the past 3 years. I think he's pledging about $100 million in 2019, and then more in the years ahead. Whether or not this will be enough to satisfy some of his harshest critics remains to be seen.
Definitely not, I would guess, probably. So Dustin, you and Yvonne have reported extensively about some of the sexual harassment allegations and the broader culture that has allowed some of these things to flourish. So I'm guessing that made for sort of an awkward beginning to the session. You have these people coming together for the first time in months and months with this kind of hanging over it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tuesday was the second day of the legislature. They began in the House in the morning with sensitivity training about harassment and discrimination, and it began in probably the most dramatic way it possibly could have. Don Shooter immediately asked for a point of personal privilege. He took the floor and gave a pretty lengthy apology. It was a tearful apology. He was often kind of muttering through his words, but he basically just said that he's sorry if his humor has offended anyone. But he, pretty, I guess, indirect, without naming Michelle Ugenti-Rita, said that her complaint was false and that it was motivated by a personal political vendetta. He said other accusations against him were false, but some were credible, but it was mostly people not understanding he was joking, and he's sorry for that.
And what was the reaction to that?
You know, it was kind of a stunning moment on the floor, because he was sitting, you know, in one of the back rows in the House, and 3 rows in front of him, Michelle Ugenti-Rita is sitting there as he reads this apology, you know, pretty much saying that she's a liar, and she sits there stoically. When it's done, about a dozen members of the House applaud. Most, you know, it appeared to be all Republicans. They applaud. Michelle Ugenti-Rita gets up and leaves the House floor immediately, and then the training resumes. But the reaction on social media was pretty sharp. A lot of people felt like his apology was not a sincere, kind of in-depth apology that they were looking for.
I think you will see more, though, on the dynamics between Shooter and Ugenti-Rita maybe in the coming weeks and months as this investigation unfolds, and maybe more is uncovered about communications, potentially, that, you know, the public might have a pretty strong reaction to. So I think that that play and that interaction between those two lawmakers has really been isolated to that chamber, and perhaps we'll see more on that soon.
Interesting. So Dan, Joe Arpaio announced this morning he's running for U.S. Senate. What do you think of that?
Well, that's right. Like, after years of teasing possible runs for the Senate and for the governor's job, and even I think Eric would call him toying with the idea of maybe running for president one time. He actually went ahead and actually pulled the trigger on a bid for higher office. You know, a lot of skepticism still about, you know, his intentions in this race. Jeff Flake was telling reporters he doesn't buy it. He doesn't think he's in there for the long haul. There's, you know, speculation that maybe this is some kind of a tactic to raise some money for his legal bills. But nonetheless, he is in the race. He seemed to take pleasure in pointing out to all the naysayers in the media. That seemed to be, maybe part of his point in doing this. He told me, I get to burst your bubble, after I'm actually doing this. I'm not joking around. So he's in the race, at least for now. Kelly Ward, her campaign put out a statement and another sign that maybe they're wondering how real this is. They basically used the occasion to praise Arpaio, welcomed him in the race, and then went ahead and attacked Martha McSally, who's expected to get in the race soon on the establishment side of the GOP.
So I guess we could say Donald Trump also was a guy who was always saying he was going to run and never did until he did. And
right, and obviously Arpaio has a relationship with Trump. He says that he's not spoken with him, but I would guess that he will try to get the Trump endorsement just as Kelly Ward has been trying to get it.
So Yvonne, what are you watching for at the state capitol this week?
Additional stories about women who feel as though they may have been sexually harassed.
Something to watch for. Dan?
I'm going to take a closer look at this emerging Joe Arpaio candidacy.
Dustin, you'll be at the Capitol. What are you watching for?
Still watching sexual harassment. There was a pretty heated debate about the idea of having some sort of time limitation, statute of limitations on complaints. That was debated on the House floor today, so I think we're going to see more of that when they revisit their training next week.
How to keep some of the skeletons still in the closet as they come tumbling out. Well, that's it for the Gaggle. We'll be back next week.